All right, this is where we get the big fight. We've got the qualification matches on the way here to find out who moves on to Gamers 8, which is that $400,000 tournament here in the distance. Here at Games Without Borders, we've got to my left-hand side to talk about this game. It's Pig and Ben once again. Great stuff. Okay, we've got ourselves RagnaroK versus Classic, but let's take a look at the bracket and see how both of these players got here. First things first, steady, calm down, James. We have got ourselves up towards the top of the bracket here. RagnaroK was able to 2-1 Bunny, and Classic was able to 2-1 Gumiho. So neither player had exactly the smoothest roads to get here, Pig, but a good opportunity for these guys to be able to move to Gamers 8.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's cool to see Classic looking in form recently, and obviously RagnaroK. It was so important for him to not keep losing against Terran in close 1-2 matches. He finally broke that little miniature curse he had going for himself. So there's high hopes for both of these players, and I really don't know who to favor, because over the years, Classic was always like the big guy. He was so much better. RagnaroK was kind of this B-teamer. But in the last year, RagnaroK has stepped up his game, and it's very hard to judge how they're going to match up now that RagnaroK has evolved as a player.
Oh, definitely. Now the apprentice has become the master. We have, let's take a look at the verses here between these two as well. RagnaroK versus Classic, again, to reiterate, is a best of 5 here to qualify to Gamers 8. So Ben, what are you thinking? Because of course RagnaroK is a guy that has really made waves over the last year of his career, especially. But now trying to get over some of these hurdles has been a little bit difficult for him. But it's good that he doesn't have to go up against yet another Terran here. It is going to be a Protoss for him.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to make of this one, you know, because Classic, I will always revere him as one of the best Protossers in the world during his era, and he's had these roadblocks, hasn't he, upon coming back? Like, I think it was Pig that mentioned it when he tried to get back into GSL after just coming back from the army. He was so close multiple times, and he went up against like people like Zest in big best of 5s going down to the final map, and then he didn't make it. It was like, oh damn, like I guess Classic, we're not going to see Classic this season. And it's really rough being a pro gamer, isn't it? Because you get these times to shine. It's like you just get beat out by somebody very damn good, because Zest was also one of the best, obviously. But I'm very excited to see it. Like, Classic is one of those Protossers that I'm always curious, because I know that the potential is absolutely there. He's done it before, and I'm just kind of waiting for that moment, because if he does become one of the next big Protossers, I wouldn't be at all surprised, but I'd also love to see it.
Yeah, Classic for me is the name that was almost always on the cusp, but just before he went to the army, always on the cusp of being one of the absolute greats. Pick. I mean, yes, okay, he's won an Intel Extreme Masters, but then he would get like to finals or semi-finals of huge tournaments and then kind of whiff out, burn out a little bit. So it is good to see, as Ben says, Classic back on the horse again here. Maybe he can make it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, once you've been a champion, you know, and he has been a champion in the biggest tournaments in the world. He's won multiple super tournaments, as well as regular Code S's and all sorts of things. So he's a beast of a player, but he's had a little bit of trouble because I think the level in terms of late game army management is very high. And we've also seen very different compositions to what a lot of his old experience was with. So since he's come back, he's been very good at getting himself ahead, but especially versus Zerg, there have been times where he fumbles the maxed out army control when he's controlling like Zealot, Archon, Disruptor. Now that's something he's been improving gradually and steadily, but that was like one of the reasons he sometimes felt a little bit short in the Protoss versus Zerg matchup.
Maybe look to Creator for a little bit of inspiration, even though it was not exactly the most standard. But we have Gresvan, NeoHumanity, Babylon, Ancient Cistern, and Dragon Scales if we need it here. So on the flip side of things, though, when you look at RagnaroK and how he is, yes, okay, there might have been this kind of weird wave, Ben, that he's had to hit against Terrans and stuff like that. But need we forget, this guy has been in a GSL final. He gets there for a reason. Yeah, okay, he didn't qualify for this reason one. But in Katowice, up until the point where he played against Maru, he looked unfazed by any match. He just looked like he was having fun and beating all these great players and doing all right. So RagnaroK definitely has that in him.
He absolutely does. Like, when it comes to just fundamentals, for anybody that wants to look back, go in a time machine, I think there's even one of those Caldor FP VOD things where you see his keyboard and mouse from 10 years ago. Yeah, literally. And RagnaroK's one of those videos with like where he's very fast, and he always has been. Mechanically, he's really damn solid. And if these games are, you know, he's allowed to do his thing, then absolutely has a really good chance. But Classic, he's one of the trickier dudes out there. Hopefully it's going to be a good one, because I know that they're both capable of dishing out some damn good series.
And now a blast from the past, that name. And now Caldor's in Valencia, just riding his bike a lot, doing working out things. But he was always doing working out things. Anyway, guys, thank you. It is time to head into the qualification match now. It's a best of 5 to find out who moves on to Gamers 8. Who's it going to be? Will a Protoss go through for the first time? Let's find out.
Let's find out. We are back from a quick break. I've just had myself a nosh and a cuppa. No? Is that correct?
I mean, yeah, a nosh. He just had a nosh and a cuppa. I guess that does make sense, cats.
Okay, that's fantastic. And yeah, do you reckon... One? Yeah, of course. Do you reckon either one of these players will end up looking a Muppet?
Is that like a British phrase? Like
a Muppet?
Like,
Muppet?
Yeah. Like I mean, like
yeah, it seems so. Yeah, according to my Googling. I really need to work on my accent, and then I'll be invincible.
Yeah, in Cats, I think he'd make it here no matter what, mate. I think you'd be fine. All right, at the bottom right side, kicking us off on this one, our Red Protoss player is Classic.
With attack from Titan suit. And in the top left-hand side, it is for Alpha X, RagnaroK. Coolest name, probably, in the scene.
You know, Cats, I think you probably know more British slang than I do now.
Maybe so. I just Googled like a bunch of words. I really like it. How common is British slang where you're from? Like, I know, you're obviously within the UK, but...
Well, I guess all the time, like, especially where I'm from, people have very heavy accents and a lot of words that just... Yeah, a lot of words that people don't even know if you go like 2 hours south. They wouldn't even necessarily know what you're talking about.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's quite crazy, I guess, really, when you think about it, just how different everyone in the UK speaks a lot of the time.
Yeah, it varies a lot from like just place to place in the UK, right? Like it's like crazy differences. Yeah.
Almost every city like speaks slightly differently. It's some people who know the UK really well and UK accents really well, they can pinpoint like which city I'm from, not just like which general part of the country, but like which city.
Really?
And that's really impressive because I have like very little accent in my voice compared to a lot of British people as well, right? So
yeah,
it's it always amazes me because I wouldn't have been able to pick it up, but some people can.
Yeah, that's crazy. Out of you, Calaris, and the Muslim, who do you think has the most British, like the thickest accent?
Either James or Ben. I don't know. Maybe Ben. Yeah. Sometimes James gives him a good run for his money, though.
He does. James, yeah, I learned a lot of words from James as well. Right, well, pretty standard opening here. Again, we had that nasty hatch block from the probe, so RagnaroK's going to be forced to take the forward third as the Overlord is going to park himself here. You know what I like doing with his Overlord is just kind of like poking in a little bit further to see if you can force a Stalker, because once the unit starts, you're not going to cancel it. You allocated your chrono boost, and then just with enough time, I run back to the pillar. So if you bait a Stalker that way, it's so nice because then you don't have to make links on the other side and whatnot. But of course, most players will just go for the Adept regardless.
It's a very cute move, Cats. I like it.
Thank you.
Do a lot of people make the Stalker just because they see you moving forward, do you think?
I think more people than... I mean, I know that it has to happen sometimes, and that's good enough to do it, right? Like, if it happens once in 100 games, then that's an advantage for free.
Well, yeah,
but I think it happens more often than
right?
that. Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, that's actually a very cool idea. Stargate opening here from Classic. Classic, talk about his PvZ a little. He's very creative, and I really expect him to come out with a couple different timings in this series. I don't think Classic's going to be playing for the late game a whole bunch. I really think he's going to be very timing focused, or if he is playing a longer game, it's because RagnaroK's on the offensive and he's being forced to defend into a stronger army, but then he'll probably still try and make something of a timing out of it afterwards too.
This is a lot of Zerglings to make for RagnaroK this early into the game. 4 links are going to chase the Adept. You want to keep those alive if you're going for some sort of a timing, but I think RagnaroK wants to just completely shut down this aggression and then go to deny the third, force the Oracles to stay back. The problem is going to come if he doesn't find his damage, but lucky for him, the Adept is now backing away. and that gives his Lynx kind of free reign to go out on the map and get that map control, jump on the third potentially as soon as it gets set up. Luckily for Classic, or rather not luckily, but just smartly from Classic, he has his Oracle back here. Just needs to tuck those Adepts in the back, and he should be A-okay. Beautiful positioning.
Instantly pops the Oracle as well, as RagnaroK will go for the cancel and he gets it. So yeah, Classic was right to pop the Oracle ASAP, because then he got as many Lings out of this as possible at least. Now he'll replace the Nexus, and he will this time go diving across the map with those Oracles, but the Lings are going to dive back in. So Classic, he might be cancelled here a second time, and that's where it starts to get a little bit awkward. Now you're going to be hoping one of the Adepts stuck by the other Adept warping in.
Wow.
There is another cancel, man. This is actually starting off pretty well for RagnaroK.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but it was a very heavy investment into Zerglings. But yeah, I mean, 2 cancels in a row, pretty good. Gonna get an Adept there for his troubles, but this delayed his spores on the other side of the map. So 5 workers have fallen to the Oracles, and the 1 Adept for Classic still doing work here. Will get rid of all those Lings. And yeah, I mean, conceptually, RagnaroK got what he came for, but it is exactly what you pointed out, Wordicho. Like, he had Classic, that is, his Oracle in position, turns the beam right away. So even though RagnaroK gets the opportunity to pounce on the Nexus as soon as it gets set up, he bleeds a few units. Very good position on the Adepts as well for Classic. And these Oracles, I mean, they should be punished by that many Lings on the other side of the map, and I think RagnaroK was not expecting they would move out as early as they did, so delays his spores and pays for it dearly. These Adepts, though, may not find much.
Yeah, they didn't want to do much for a moment. They would just move commanding. Oracle's turn to help out a little bit. At least they get shut down. That's something RagnaroK kind of needed at this point, just to not take any further damage, because he is the one that's been taking a beating so far. Roach Warren about to finish up at the front from him. And, well, Roaches can be on the way if that's what he wants to produce, but he's just going to sneak a few more drones out, playing a bit of catch-up. Classic on his way to blink. Again, set up there, even just a couple Stalkers this time on the defense of the third.
Yeah, but RagnaroK is looking to RagnaroK your socks off with this follow-up, as he is taking up to the lair. And he will be getting, presumably, you know, like some roach speed to follow. He's no Muppet, that's for sure. What did you say?
He's doing RagnaroK has socks off with the move into left.
Okay, I'll have to fully disclose. Okay, like, we have a new challenge where Pig gives us words to say during the broadcast, and this broadcast was RagnaroK your socks off. The last one was meow.
It's only funny because you have the whole best of 5 to do it. I just don't want to
forget. I don't want to forget. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna RagnaroK your socks off with this halfway done lair. Definitely didn't pick the best moment for it. I agree.
Not quite. Oracle's still on the defense here. Lings have been super active from RagnaroK. He's been absolutely non-stop checking in on that base repeatedly. However, he is going to start facing these Stalkers, and his first Stalker push just prior to Blink is always dangerous for this 4th base. Something that Zerg has always struggled to kind of keep their 4th base alive against. Let's see how we do now. Oracle's not here immediately to help these Stalkers out. It means the Lings get a good surround and some good damage. Finally, we get Blink up, and that was just the Oracles being out of position. I don't think Classic was wrong to be here with the Stalkers. It was the Oracles not being on top of them that allowed the Lings to do so well, and that is a Blink. What, Classic? You crazy,
That's
bro.
so weird. Yeah, that Blink was absolutely bananas, but I mean, I kind of don't know how much I like the Lings around when the Oracles do end up showing up. It's so difficult to make the decision to disengage, because then you're gonna get taxed on the retreat by all of these Stalkers. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, RagnaroK holds, and he does have a Spire on the way, 9 Muta on the way, in fact. So that is nifty. I mean, that looks really, really good against a Protoss that hasn't committed heavily to the Stargate, right? Just has one Oracle out there and is going into Colossus. So if RagnaroK can get on the other side of the map whilst defending here, he will be in a fabulous position.
Yeah, that's very true. Those meters popping, and Stalker's still trying to put on some pressure. Classic just not really doing enough with this. He's on his way to Colossi behind it. He needs to defend against these mutas, though, because mutas can absolutely just ravage your mineral lines and just completely disrupt where you're at in the game. And they're just heading straight across the map. The Stalkers are super busy trading on the left, and they're not making enough progress to punish RagnaroK for having made the mutas.
Yeah, and the scary thing for the Stalkers, and pay attention here, guys, is they cannot be blink microed very effectively while you're dealing with this on the muta. So he's probably just gonna have to blink back and disengage. And RagnaroK very smartly pounces on the Stalkers at the same time, knowing that minimal micro, it can be done at this point for Classic. The best thing that he can do is disengage. So takes a fabulous kind of like just trade on the other side side by virtue of distracting with the Muta, and it's impossible for any player in the world basically to deal with Muta when you've completely gotten unprepared and blinked your stalkers on the other side of the map, right? So fantastic move from RagnaroK.
Absolutely love what he's been able to do here and just turning around. Well, honestly, it was at first, I think, scary for Classic. Well, and now just getting a lot with it. He is going to get blinked on here, loses a few of these mutas, so Classic getting a bit of a cleanup. His Colossus count has been growing, remember, so there is potentially still that one time with a few Colossi to maybe get something done.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal case scenario for Classic here would have been if he could have moved out with his first two Colossus or something like that, but it's very unintuitive because you have double robo production going for you. So, you know, you probably want to wait for at least 4 Colossus, then a couple of Immortals or Disruptors or something like that to really feel like you're operating at full potential and that your investment has paid off and going for that double robo and the robotics bay, right? So, yeah, a little bit tough of a position for him. RagnaroK's gonna get a lot of map control. Classic contained to 3 bays, and he's just gonna have to slowly crawl his way into a 4th and try to elongate the game, I think.
Do you think there's no chance of Classic going across like a chunk of Colossi and just zip, zap, zopping everything down?
It seems very unlikely, but that might be what he is going for. It's so difficult to take that 4th against the Muta. I just think that RagnaroK has so much breathing room. Like, he can start adding perhaps like Banelings or something to make his army more supply efficient, or even just start attacking into Classic, and that might be Classic's. Oh, there's the Banelings. Love to see that. So yeah, he's still scaling, right? So by the time that Classic moves out, I don't know how he's gonna gather enough to really make a difference.
I thought that Classic finally made a Phoenix just to poke at these mutas, and it's low-key actually working very well. It forces the mutas out of that corner, and he's actually going to clean them all up. Maybe one gets away here, but yeah, pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what a sick detail there from Classic. Just the bare minimum, right? Like, it's so difficult to make that decision. It's like, yeah, I'll just make the one
Phoenix.
Yeah, beautiful.
Well, if only there was one Phoenix earlier, Cats, this might have been a whole lot easier. Right now, Classic is moving into the middle of the map with this big push, so no 4th base, massive attacks, so many Stalkers. There's like a lone sentry in there. Let's just see. I mean, you see him pre-split, and he knows that Baneling Splash is going to be big here because of just how many units there are. He needs these Colossi to survive and somehow find a way to put a lot of splash out without going down too quickly.
Yeah, but RagnaroK was just waiting for these Vipers, and now they're here. The 2 Colossus are gonna go to the front. Don't explode any Banelings on them, and RagnaroK does not. Beautiful job to start here from the Korean Zerg as he is looking to pounce onto the now clumped up Stalkers. I would imagine anytime soon. I mean, he's just bleeding units. Let's go. Let's go. He's gonna go get the next 2 Colossus. That is wonderful. I want to see the production. What are the reinforcements? I would expect Zerglings with what's remaining here, and it is 42 Zerglings and 5 Roaches on the way, looking pretty great for RagnaroK.
Yep, the Vipers were out, and that obviously goes a long way. I don't think these Stalkers are going to be enough to push up this ramp. Like, Stalkers are good at, like, you know, attacking and trading back. I don't think there's enough of them right now to really push up here. Yeah, even this Phoenix is like, I'm going to be the most valuable single Phoenix of all time. Killing 9
really
wasn't enough for me.
Really, I mean, he even forced Biles onto RagnaroK's own army, as now there's more Banelings morphing. I mean, Banelings are obviously going to do well against clump of units, even though against individual Stalkers, that's like one of the worst matchups possible for the Baneling. When they are clumped up, the Baneling is just that good of a unit, but it seems like the army of RagnaroK is thinning down here at the front, even though his supply seems to tell a different tale.
I feel like he's just holding some Banes back a little while, and I'm not really worried. I think he's got plenty on the way, and it's not like Classic's really making progress. He's just trading on the ramp, and RagnaroK's staying maxed out, then he's staying maxed out. He has a couple Disruptors, and even those need really good shots to make a difference, and killing 1 Queen probably ain't going to do. We are going to snipe down 1 Viper or 2, so that's a great pick from Classic. That just needed to happen 2 minutes earlier to save those Colossi.
Yeah, a little bit careless there from RagnaroK. Probably just clicked on the Disruptors from far away. That is a huge shot, actually, onto the Banelings. I mean, as expensive of a shot as you can ever get from a Disruptor is going to be Banelings, because they clump up so much and they're relatively expensive units. The Biles are good for RagnaroK, but actually a blink forward from Classic, who continues to get flanked from a group of Roaches from behind. 10 Lynx and 12 Roaches only on the way for RagnaroK, and his supply continues to thin out. Drones surrounding the Disruptors. Where DJ, what is happening?
Classic just found the moment, man. A Disruptor shot helped him to lead into this, and all of a sudden he keeps on trading. Disruptor's ready again. More Roaches going down. Classic is actually going to do it, man. Like, what?
Absolutely crazy. This is all off of a 3-base economy with the main almost mining out, so he was bound to run out of steam within a minute or two, and all RagnaroK has to do is hold at that point. Overconfidence, I think, Guardicio. For me, at least, for my money, those Vipers never needed to die. I think he was just like, yeah, this game's over, let me just abduct those. And, you know, like, yeah, I think we all thought this game was over, and RagnaroK paid for it.
I'm probably with you. Honestly, when the Colossi died, I thought, well, that's just it, right? Like, RagnaroK has everything in his favor, and yeah, the Disruptor's showing up. Even then, I was like, okay, even if they get decent shots, I feel like you've got so much to do here as Classic, but man, the one shot on the bane lanes really meant there was no threat on the Stalkers, and suddenly it was just at the moment RagnaroK's trying to split a few roaches around to flank as well. So you could actually then just jump on one half of the army, or, you know, a portion of the army he felt like he really outnumbered. Just wow, honestly, from Classic, because I don't know. I would look back on that and still say that I think RagnaroK should absolutely have it until the moment Classic took the supply lead, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this Muta were so wonderful that we're seeing right now on screen, but I think retrospectively, I think I didn't like the last bunch of banelings at all for RagnaroK, and it's not just because they got taken down from a disruptor shot, but rather because I think that you get more value when you're not maxed out of Roach, Ravager, Ling against pure Stalkers, which is what he was facing, right? Like against pure Stalkers, when it's that wide of a space down your ramp where they can easily split potentially against those banelings, I don't think that you want those banelings. The banelings are beautiful and wonderful when he made them at first, because it allows him to continue to scale an army that otherwise doesn't scale past the 200 supply mark, right? So when you are maxed, you have 30 links. Would you rather have 30 links or 30 banelings? Well, 30 banelings every time. But if you're not maxed, if it's cost for cost, if it's not about supply efficiency, I think these banelings were a little bit of a waste to morph. I think the links would have done a little bit more, a little bit earlier, and he would have been able to afford additional army and reinforcements here.
So much supply from RagnaroK in production, actually. And obviously, I said, you know, RagnaroK stayed maxed out, but Classic really went all out in the moment where it just felt like there was like 10 plus roaches in production, a few lings, and RagnaroK was splitting those units down the bottom side. So if there ever was a moment to make a jump, that really was it. And Classic just having killer instinct. Wow. Something I think Classic's always had, really, right? You know, Classic's always been able to say, hey, look, you know, I'm kind of like the sort of player that shows up, and I'm the sort of player that will win these games when I can. Just incredible, though, because I absolutely feel like this was meant to be RagnaroK's game, and that's got to feel really bad for RagnaroK, because all of a sudden Classic is up a game, and obviously he is looking to be our first Protoss player qualified for Gamers 8 if he can win out this best of 5.
At least that would be good. Let's see. No, we have another one. We don't have a desk segment, do we? After the third game, maybe?
A desk segment? No, I don't think so.
Okay, because this is the best of 5s now, right? So there is a break at some point. I think that the players have.
Players need it.
Want it at third game, right?
For now, we go in game.
All right.
More StarCraft.
More StarCraft. And what a name here that we have in the top left-hand side. He is truly living up to it. Classic.
In the bottom right, unfortunately, his opponents still have their socks on right now. It is RagnaroK.
Yeah, I mean, the Muta should have done it. He really was looking to rock some socks with that, but it didn't work out. That is the perfect scenario as well for RagnaroK, so it's going to be a little bit demoralizing on multiple fronts, right? Like, your Muta were unspotted, they crossed the map, they were doing wonderful. He took a beautiful fight on the other side against the Stalkers, which was kind of like the scary part, is before you make those 8 Muta, are you going to have enough to defend against the Stalkers? Once the Muta pounds on the other side, you get an opportunity to kind of divert your opponent's attention. Everything was going swimmingly. You're maxed with everything your opponents contain on 3 base, and then you lose. That's gotta be gutting.
I would imagine so, Cats. Like you say, like, you can't really set it up better yourself, even if you just kind of phrase it. And yeah, it really should have been a RagnaroK game, and I think he's got to be very upset at losing that one. And you know, it's never easy to take games off Classic. That was meant to be one of them. I still can't get over the single Phoenix though, man. Like, that was such a sick call. Like, he realized, like, he was like, I'm gonna hold on against these mutas of Stalkers, and in the end he was like, okay, I've more or less done that. Yeah, I took some damage, sure, but I just need one Phoenix to actually poke them away from the corner so it can freely go across the map. And that's obviously what opened him to being able to just say, right, this is it, let's go then. So yeah, very cool Phoenix. That's fun to mention again.
And it really goes to show that Classic's mind is in this game throughout the entire game. I mean, even just coming back and pouncing on that last opportunity, he's very tuned into the game. He's very focused, it feels like, right? Like to make that sort of decision, like it's just not the sort of decision that comes up on the ladder, or it comes up like when you're practicing and stuff like that. It is just one of those situations that doesn't really happen. So for you to have the presence of mind to account for it in the way that he did was just wonderful, right? It is just so rare. I don't think I've seen that before, period. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Couple queens, Link Speed all coming out here. Overlord on the way out as well. Just going to see that Stargate again from Classic, and I feel like a lot of his openings might include the Stargate first. Don't know if you'll see too much of a Twilight opening from him, but he's the kind of guy that generally would Twilight open, but then I feel like he likes doing a lot of stuff just off the Stargate, even if it's just like one Oracle, then into a Twilight for Claves or something along those lines.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's the first Adept. Might want to wait for his partner, and he's going to go at a kind of a weird angle, but already RagnaroK in position for it. So won't be too problematic here, as now it's going to take the position in between the two bases to kind of threaten there. The link spread for RagnaroK, same as DRG's, 3 on each base, 6 links total to start. And again, he is going for this early swell of links to deny the third. Very interesting, because you just pulled that off, right? Is that really going to work again?
Yeah, it is off more drones, right? Like last time he did 26, I believe, and this time it's 30, so maybe not as much of a commitment, but still the same idea. Classic gets back, Oracle, Adept together will look to defend against this, and he did get the cancel a couple of times over. The big issue was just not having spores ready when the Oracles got across, so Classic undid a lot of the advantage RagnaroK created. And those Lings are just sitting on the Watchtower, man, not even competing for the third base right now, maybe waiting for the Oracle to move across, but then Oracle 2 is nearly ready.
That's just the thing, right? It's like if you are going to make the swell of links, the best case scenario is what happened last game, which is you time it so that you are hitting as soon as Classic drops that Nexus. But this Nexus now has too much HP. If the Oracle even now turns around, I think it should be enough to save it.
Yep, and the Lings know that too. They're instantly off of it. So unfortunately for RagnaroK, it's not all coming together here in game number 2. Classic is going to be able to maintain a good start, and yeah, just those Lings hurt you, man. You're still kind of trailing just about the same work count as the Protoss play here. 4.5 minutes in, 44 workers, losing a couple more Lings unnecessarily. The good news, at least, is the Oracles aren't doing too much. They're going to get a couple kills, but one of them is going to be low.
Yeah, and I'm glad this time around the spores were ready, because I feel like if you're going for something like what RagnaroK did, where you pull off this many links, it really hurts your economy enough that you want to delay those spores, and you're kind of trusting the links to keep the Oracles on the other side. So last time he got surprised. This time around, only 3 drones end up falling to the Oracles. So like you were saying, not the worst thing in the world, but still RagnaroK is going to be working at a somewhat of an economical deficit just by virtue of having made those links that really didn't accomplish anything. As now Classic is looking to put on aggression and force, at the very least, additional units, not something RagnaroK wants to do.
Anything that RagnaroK builds right now is on a slow drone count. Whoa. The commit, man. I mean, the Adepts get in between a mineral line, which definitely does help. And to be fair, they're pretty healthy still. The drones have to start pulling away. The Adepts can jump to the main base, and this is already looking good. They're going to commit in, just target down a few drones. Now the Oracle's getting to the natural. 7 workers. Lings are dropping. Adepts still healthy in the main. And this is just so much damage. Classic is absolutely destroying in this game number 2. He barely didn't get a drone there because of some slight regen, but 14 final workers. Wow.
I mean, he really is playing out of his mind, right? Because RagnaroK is doing these unusual openings. He is getting this swell of links, but then Classic identifies where the weakness is. He says, okay, you made links then. Now you have to drone up a little bit later. I'm just going to move out as soon as possible. Like every single time, right? It's like the first Oracle stays as long as it needs to stay. As soon as the second one's about to pop out, like you were pointing out, the first one moves out to try and find damage. As soon as he has 3 Adepts, the second one moves out and finds 3 drones worth of damage. As soon as he feels like his Adept threshold is greater than RagnaroK's links that he has made, he moves out. It's just like timing, like little timing after little timing after little timing, and compounding interests here for a Classic that is playing out of his mind today.
Now, going to grab an Overlord. RagnaroK isn't really super clear of being supply blocked, so has to be kind of careful. Stalkers will begin to trade. We're moments away from Blink, but this time, difference to the last game. Oracles are immediately above the Stalkers to protect from circling, so an adjustment from Classic, realizing one little mistake he made last time around, and he fixes it immediately, and now just keeps on pressing forward. And again, Overlords are currently a problem. 5 on the way in production. RagnaroK is starting to fix it. He can Blink back out of trouble, but just again, damage being done so far by Classic, and RagnaroK cannot keep up with this.
He cannot, not for the moment anyway. He's gonna go for some link counter attacks as he gets his +2, +1 links are pretty nice against Blink Stalkers, but there isn't much more, unfortunately. So he's just choosing to go for on the counter offense. He's gonna find the 4th RagnaroK is, but on his side, he's getting destroyed by this Blink Stalkers. And the 4th, I mean, Classic is unfazed. He's ready for it.
Yeah, deals with that, no problem. Stalkers here are a little bit deep on creep, you could argue, and obviously they may want to start just, stepping back a little to be sure of themselves. The roaches do kind of get quite far forward and on top of them, but we are losing roach after roach. It's not like there's a ton of roaches. Finally, the Stalkers might have to blink back. Classic's even going to activate his pulsar beams on the Oracles, though. Keep on trading. An extra Stalker or so showing up right now. Those reinforcements that were previously defending now arriving to help the fight. And again, just never letting RagnaroK breathe, apart from just making roach after roach after roach. And the Zealots are here to tank the Lings, and it just gets worse and worse as Classic attacks into RagnaroK's 4th.
It's so beautiful. I mean, so much confidence to have these little skirmishes, right? Where you have like 5 Stalkers left over, no problem. I got 3 more on the way, 3 more on the way, you know, and it's enough. Little by little, he has whittled his opponent down to nothing. And RagnaroK is going to have to tap out Classic with an absolute masterclass.
Yeah, what a solid game number 2. Just, like you say, masterclass really is a bit of a word for it. I love what you said about just kind of compounding interest and just finding the timings, right? Like, oh, RagnaroK, you swelled your Lings here. That means you're weak now. That's when I strike. You know, same a couple times over and boom, you're just in such a lead. All that damage then begins to just add up time after time after time. And yeah, I gotta say, man, that was an absolute clinic from Classic. Just a solid game number 2. And now RagnaroK's really got to be kicking himself for that game number 1, because obviously Classic's now on match and qualifying point. But also RagnaroK's got to be like, man, if you're this dangerous, I should have taken my chance when I had it. It's not going to be easy for me to see opportunities in this series if you're playing as well as this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if that game 1 gets resumed from replay and you tell RagnaroK, hey, by the way, you know, you lost in one of the universes, he doesn't lose in the rest of the universes. You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, okay, let me actually use my Vipers. Let me not overmake Banelings. Like instead of trying to simplify how to end the game, he would actually put his mind into it, and I'm sure he would close it out. But now it's Classic in the lead, and he is looking so great. I mean, so very scary. This looks like the Classic of old. Like the classic, you could say.
Yeah, I think I said this yesterday, but I really enjoyed watching Classic since Katowice. It feels like in Katowice he had a bit of a spurt, and it was like, oh yeah, Classic's looking pretty good again, isn't he? And then it's been like, wow, he's really started looking good again since Katowice, and he's just been on the up and up, and this has obviously been no different for him either. So yeah, super exciting to see Classic just continue to grow back into the Protoss that he maybe once used to be. On the top left-hand side, our red Protoss player up 2-0 and looking to be the first Protoss qualified for the Gamers 8 event. It is Classic.
How come we don't have the pictures? I really like his Attack on Titan suit. And in the bottom right-hand side, it is RagnaroK, the greatest Titan of them all.
I don't know why we don't have the pictures, cats.
There it is. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Production on top of things today. Classic might be doing production at this point with how swift that was.
Cracking me up today, cats.
I am so impressed. I mean, the first series that we cast, it wasn't very good, you know. But this series, I mean, I'm just in love with everything that I'm seeing from Classic. And RagnaroK put up such a great fight and had such brilliant moments in game 1. I really just want this to go to game 5, but I mean, we're far away from that.
Yeah, we kind of need RagnaroK to change a couple things up, change the trajectory of this series. If we're going to start talking about a game 5, it's feels like a lifetime away right now. Let's see if you can do it. Babylon as a map we're kind of still working through some of the shorter maps right here. So if RagnaroK can survive through the first few minutes, you know, potentially for him to be aggressive at certain stages and maybe try and catch Classic off guard. That's the sort of thing we'll be watching out for as time passes by. This probe really being annoying.
Yes, indeed. As Loco posted a ChatGPT cast of a British person doing introductions in StarCraft 2, and the introduction that we should have clearly gone for is that Classic is the Earl of Ire and the Master of the Golden Armada. GPT, man.
I mean, the Earl of Ire actually sounds pretty good, man.
Earl of Ire. What is an Earl?
It's like
That was a name.
It's like a title, no?
Oh, okay.
I'll find out for you.
No. For sure, it's a title because the Zerg introduction is for the Duke of Char. So it sounds like Duke and Earl.
It is the highest rank until the title of Duke was created.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not that I know how highly ranked a Duke is already, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Dukes are pretty highly ranked, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but if I would have just said it's just a title. Don't know necessarily title of what, but yeah, sounds cool, right? Earl of Ire.
Earl of Ire. I like it. Well, the Earl of Ire here is just chilling for the time being. Pretty standard opening. Again, blocking the hatchery. So third time is happening here. Third time's... Well, I guess Classic. It's been working for him every time. So can't even say third time's the charm. It's just being good for him. He's going to chase this link down and get it too. A robo opening this time around. Mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, very fun with the robo opening. Obviously, he provides a lot of pressure immediately with the prism. You do... The robo one's weird though, right? Because it feels like when you follow up from a robo, you're missing a lot of things that you would usually have, especially if the prism doesn't do much. You know, all of a sudden it's like, well, you don't have any, upgrades to gateway units, you don't have any oracles to help you get in and deal damage. It really kind of heavily lies on this prism, and a lot of the time the robo openings follow very aggressively because it's like, you're not well set up for the mid game, missing those early upgrades or units that help you get there, such as oracles. And so an immortal all-in kind of, comes onto the cards, and it's exactly what we see starting up. First immortal beginning, and this is just going to be a ton of gateways. I believe he's not even mining gas right now, Classic. So he is just going for immortal, ton of gates, ton of zealots.
God, I hate him. I mean, every Zerg in the world hates Classic right now. We've all lost to this, and it is one of the most frustrating things to lose for, or to lose against, because it's just, charge slots, or presumably, or even just slow zealots in this case. And and immortals. So you're accounted for the roaches with the immortals. The Zerglings are gonna have a very difficult time against the zealots, and these sports were completely worthless on the side of RagnaroK as well. So I think he made 2. Was that 2? So that's $250 accounting for the drones. Not really what you want to have or not have in terms of a bank, right, to defend this. So difficult here for RagnaroK already.
Yeah, absolutely. As you see the Silver Lord just zooming up the left side, here comes another round of Zealots warping in, but the Queen's got on top of the prism. Classic gets caught early. This is massive because you're stopping the warping that's meant to be here right now. All these Zealots on the other side. Can you imagine how this would be if they were actually in this fight? Classic was just a hair too far forward with that prism and immediately realized it. And that might just be it, man. Like, these attacks really rely on having the power of everything all at once, but no, now he doesn't have that.
Yeah, I mean, that was like 6 or 7 zealots that were not warped in as a result because the Queens, like you said, got on top of the Warp Prism. And once again, they will get rid of the Warp Prism. And now all RagnaroK has to do is reset and just hang on until he has enough units to deal with this. Don't even bother with this, I want to say, but the Lynx are going to get this around onto the Immortal, so that's going to work out fine. The Queen's tanking beautifully for the Roaches. The Immortal trying to get on top of the Roaches, but unable to with its very short range. And Classic will drop a map as RagnaroK gets on top of that Warp Prism. I mean, well done by him. A little bit of like an inch sloppy and a second sloppy by Classic, right? Because I almost feel like he could have let the Warp in finish, lost the Warp Prism, and still would have taken a favorable fight right there and then, but then he loses all the steam for the follow-up, right? So it's I understand why Classic did what he did, but yeah, unfortunate for him not being able to execute.
I feel like it was enough zealots, especially with what RagnaroK had, and obviously we can see that better than Classic can, but I really feel like if that warping just finishes, even if there's no prism, maybe it would have been the better scenario. Yeah. Because like right now, if there's like 7 or 8 extra zealots, like this army doesn't ever die, I don't think, right? Like the roaches are so far away. And yeah, the prism's dead, maybe the immortal's dead. I mean, obviously, just easier thing to do is just not let your prism go so far forward that the Queens can jump on it. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Fantastic. Yeah, if he did that, he was looking fantastic. But yeah, I mean, not getting the first warp in and warping in far away, like you pointed out, just a little bit too rough. I think that even if he fought with the Immortal and Zealots, even if he didn't warp in with the Warp Prism, that fight goes a little bit better, but I also understand the compulsion to try to save the Immortal, right? So, yeah, I mean, difficult decisions there from Classic. Good opportunity exploited by RagnaroK. And yeah, a little bit of a switcheroo from the starport openings. And I loved everything you were saying about that, by the way. The game got hectic and it went into kind of endgame pretty fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for sure, like if you don't have that Stargate opening, it's usually an all-in because you have to invest otherwise too many units to even defend the third, where otherwise an Oracle just does that job for you.
Well, on the bottom left-hand side, our Red Pro display aggression not working out for him last time. He is Classic.
With a picture, love it.
Let's bring it back for you guys.
Thank you. And in the top right-hand side for Alpha X, he is RagnaroK. The Alpha of Alpha X.
You think he's the Alpha?
I'm not sure. I never quite understood the name of Alpha X because it's like it's multiple players in a team. Isn't the Alpha thing to be like the outstanding Alpha is like one like a Duke, you know? You don't get a lot of Dukes or Earls.
He's the
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I think it just looks cool when you write it down though, Alpha X.
That is true. That is true.
Maybe that's it. Maybe someone just
Alpha
missed the high school maths notations or something.
MLGX. No scope. No scope X or triple X even. It's kind of like the edgiest that you can go.
The edgiest name possible.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of NA teams are kind of like just, you know, like licensed to kill.
Yeah, that's true.
LTK, that's a cool name, I guess. But yeah, we have a probe now scouting once again. The hatchery has been blocked. And yeah, nothing much going on. I really like 15 hatchery, Wordicho, to try and avoid the probe block on the larger maps. Because I feel like if you know your opponent is going to probe block and you get the 15 hatch, then it's pretty worth it. But yeah, I mean, if they don't and you go for the 15 hatch, it feels kind of bad.
Yeah. I mean, just that ability to kind of outdo your opponent is definitely fairly valuable. Get behind it. Link speed, by the way, gets started and an X on the way down. Just seeing a nice chillo, but I'm really excited to see the tech choice of Classic because obviously he just tried to mix it up. And I was going to say, I'd be surprised if he kind of didn't just fall back to Stargate, especially on a map like Ancient Cistern. I still feel like Classic can do a lot of fun things off of a Stargate, so intrigued to see if it is just 2, maybe even 3 Oracles, with this being a bit more of just a full-on Stargate-friendly map, or if he does have something tricky planned once the Stargate finishes.
What is it that makes Ancient Cistern a Stargate-friendly map?
I just think it's a map that really encourages the Protoss to go towards more of a macro game, right? Like, the Zergs are not going to be able to really do much aggressively. It's quite long to get across. The busting positions are almost always from one direction. So you're just basically like, obviously Stargate keeps you safe against a lot of those busts as well, but it's just, you can get to like 3 Oracles and really use them to just control the game in a big way because the Zerg doesn't have much of a counter to it. So, and especially very rare that Queens are going to show up on the other side.
All fair points, as is to be expected from you, Wordicho. These links are very ready for the Adept Shade, as there's 4 of them on the other side. How many links are there at the third? 2? 2. Okay, so splitting 2 and 4. I'm trying to learn how to defend these Adepts. I hate them. It's 2 and 4.
I ain't adept with cats.
Not the 3 and 3. Yeah, we were talking about it in the green room earlier as well. I really hate Adepts. Both the Muslim and I are struggling against the Protoss right now, Wardy.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
Good time to be Roddy then. Get a castle.
Good time to be Roddy. Yeah, we're looking for it. Don't want to spoil anything. Hopefully it comes to fruition. 2 workers, very nice.
2 workers. The Ling's not enough to get council on the third base as RagnaroK doesn't try and swarm this time around. And yeah, good stuff from Classic. He does take a bit of a beating on that Oracle, so it's a little bit lower than you might like it, but 2 drones very early because it's very rare the first Oracle is able to necessarily grab 2 drones like that, so it almost makes up for the HP you're losing.
No, for sure. I mean, because you're going to regenerate the shields as well pretty fast and be ready to go again. now with the next Oracle as well. So he is very well set up to continue to do some damage. I love the Overlord from RagnaroK, kind of in between the natural and the third, to try and prevent this from happening further. As Classic now gears up to go into upgrades, so very much in line with what you were saying about the map, like just trying to scale. It's very difficult to attack into the map. And Glaives, I did not expect this. This is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, well, he likes to mix it up a little bit, doesn't he? So a couple oracles into Glaives. I wonder if there's something in particular he... oh, RagnaroK scouted something that got cancelled into the Twilight Council. So clearly this was a bit of a mind game too. Oh, you lose an Oracle though. Oh, but more drones on the way out. Okay, well, every drone you kill right now is huge because the Adept timing is going to be extremely valuable for, you know, the more that RagnaroK's had to try and play recovery. Yeah. A few Adepts show themselves now. Of course, it's not the first time we've seen the 5 Adepts, so this part is not uncommon for Classic to be showing. And so then all the extra Adepts show up that we're really going to see if RagnaroK is prepared. Currently making 4 Overlords at once. Massive supply block for him. As he finishes the lair, he's yet to actually make any Roaches too. I'm a little bit worried he might just instantly drop down tech and not have Roaches ready for the Adepts showing up.
What's with the rally from the third to the natural? So unusual for RagnaroK. I suppose it's not really the third. That is his initial natural, but it's not fully saturated and he's taking gases. And those transfers have costed him. Well, it's now fully saturated. But yeah, here come the Adepts, looking pretty scary. The robot now just starting for Classic, so looking for a follow-up. This is just harassment for him. He is set up on 3 base. This is not an all-in, but it does have a lot of potential. Love the Evo Chamber there to block the Adepts, but it's not going to do it for much longer as the Adepts do plow on through and now killing some workers.
Yeah, good start. Roaches were just very slow to build in this game, and because of that, you're really seeing the Adepts just be able to take an initial position, threaten to shade elsewhere. This time to jump on the natural, finding some Roaches here. Is that okay for Classic? It seems like for now it's all right. The Adepts aren't exactly dropping quickly to the 3 or 4 Roaches that are hitting them, and he's already up to 7 workers killed. Going to jump in the main base, where again he's going to find some Roaches, but maybe not as many drones as I thought he would.
Yeah, I mean, a beautiful defense here from RagnaroK, but he's still taking a lot of damage because it was a reactive defense. He saw it kind of late, this attack, and like you said, it's a huge mix-up from Classic. Not very usual to go for the very late Glaive Adepts and commit this heavily to it, of all things. So looking pretty good for a Classic that has killed 18 workers whilst being defensive on a defensive map. 22 workers now the tally. And as good as RagnaroK did, just kind of spreading his Roaches around, it was not enough reactively.
Yeah, the 14 extra workers since he took over the talking was definitely the deal breaker, I think, right? Because like 10 workers is like, well, that's kind of okay. 14 extra workers on top of that, 25 going down, that's expensive. And okay, Classic's kind of low on the army supply, but it's not a good map for running across to the other side on. So even if you feel like you've got the numbers of RagnaroK, if you want to pull that trigger, Classic has more chances than usual to get units up against it.
Yeah, so I think for RagnaroK, he's gonna have to do something that we haven't seen for him in this series, which is just try to transition to the later stages of the game. We see that Classic is getting set up for that as the upgrade. I mean, not the fastest upgrade considering how fast the Forge was, but at least he also has the Templar Archives on the way. He already has his Robo up and working, now making observers and taking a 4th. So Classic very happy to go into the later game, and RagnaroK is gonna try to bypass everything that we've been talking about as far as like the map being defensive with a Nidus Worm and Swarm hosts.
Okay. Not what I was really expecting. I'm a little bit worried about how he's going to do against the initial rounds of Stalkers. Because to my eyes, okay, Swarm was to find if you can start the initiative as, oh no, these Roaches get jumped on, they're just going to get picked off. Yeah, my point basically is the Stalkers are going to force the Swarm Hosts to be defensive straight away, and if that's the case, Swarm Hosts just aren't good, right? If they're constantly being used defensively, and yeah, losing these Roaches means there's even more of a chance for Classic to capitalize in that way, although he has had to run all the way back home, so maybe these Roaches have done something, but yeah, very expensive way to force the Protoss player back home.
Yeah, the real job, I think, was to provide an anchor for that Nidus Worm, so he doesn't even get it where he would like it. Instead, it's going to be a Nidus Worm near the 3rd of Classic, but he has so much stuff on the other side that I don't know how RagnaroK's going to hold here, how he's going to fend off, because like you were saying, I mean, the Swarmos, they're not going to do much defensively. They have to go on offense, and that leaves it to whatever RagnaroK has left to try and defend. He is now even on workers, but Classic has held the lead for the majority of this game. Things looking difficult for RagnaroK.
Classic just going to give up the base, because if he takes down this base himself, then it's basically 3 base versus 3 base, and that's absolutely fine from Classic's point of view. So he knows he can continue to fight. He's not going to worry about defending the Locust on the other side. He's going to keep his warp ins on this side. Purely Stalkers, there was that one on Maul and tried its best to cosplay the Prism from the last game by giving itself up early, but now he just jump on top of everything. Wow. And Classic will dismantle RagnaroK in this series. Honestly, the only time RagnaroK looked like he had a chance was when Classic accidentally put his Prism like too far forward, and yeah. I guess game 1 RagnaroK was looking good for a while too.
The Muta, yeah, with the Muta he was looking really good.
I guess just games 2 and 4 really undid what I felt in game 1, right? Like,
no, for sure.
It was so convincing.
They really were. I mean, Classic drowned RagnaroK and just his brilliance in this series. He was amazing, and yeah, I can't wait to see more of him. That was brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool to see Classic qualifying, of course, in this best of 5, getting through to that Gamers 8 event. And yeah, first Protoss player, man. Obviously, we're hoping Hero can do it as well. That Hero Q match coming up, we know that's going to be a whole lot of fun as well. So also looking forward to that one. And yeah, cool to see Classic making through, especially if Classic plays this well, because I feel like he can be a contender if he's playing like this when it comes to the big tournament.
For sure. I mean, he played just incredibly well, better than I have seen from him. You've had a little bit more time, I guess, to follow him and his trajectory back to stardom, but he really is starting to look like the Classic that was that top 1-2 contender for the Protoss title. So yeah, amazing to see.
All right, let's go to the desk and see what they think about a Protoss in Games 8.
That's right. Thank you, Border. You don't sound very excited about a Protoss making it through. I'll make it up for you. Yes, the Earl of Ire. Give that man an acre. He got himself to Gamers 8. I'm so happy finally a Protoss made it. Oh, Pig. Ben, it's high time. We get at least one Pig. One.
Hey, remember to put respect on this man's name. In a year called 2019, there was a thing called the Nidus Swarmhost. There was a map pool that was very good for the Nidus Swarmhost, and it was what we refer to as broken. And Classic was the one man that stopped Rogue's disgusting Nidus Swarmhost onslaught that he was ruining everyone within that tournament, and he did it in style. And here again, he's fighting for that Protoss representation. He says, we're gonna fight. Well, and that was the cleanest PvZ I've actually seen from him in quite a while. That was a beautiful display of skill.
I'm going to be real, though, as we take a look at the highlights brought to you by Aramco. I cast a lot of WCS Europe, and I actually have PTSD whenever I see a swarm host, so let's not talk about that. But now, let's take a look back at these games here, Ben. What a great series from Classic, and once again, I do feel like RagnaroK, it feels like watching RagnaroK at the moment, it feels like he's lost a little bit of his way, maybe some of his confidence in the game. I mean, across most matchups.
I mean, he might have done, but I mean, like, this series was all about Classic. Like, this first game, he had no right in winning. Like, he was sent back to the Stone Age. He was on 58 workers, 3 bases against like a 5 base Zerg, and he decided to push. And it was looking like, oh, okay, it's looking bleak. 2 Colossus gone, then another 2 gone, just down to Stalks and a couple of Disruptors. But he was making magic happen. And if there's anything that I can really take away from this series, it's Classic has killer instinct, man. Like, as soon as he got a little bit of a lead or a little bit of pressure or momentum, he just kept on going. He was an absolute wrecking ball. And I also love the fact that once he was 2-0 ahead, and like the first game was ridiculously close, he just whips out a build like this. The good old, I'm going to run across the map with an Immortal, a Warp Prism, slow Zealots as well. And I mean, why not? He's just showcased that he can do a lot, and he's a real damn scary Protoss. It's like watching the Classic of old.
Yeah, definitely he is. Unfortunately, he didn't quite get this one under his belt, but there's every possibility that could occur and could win against some lesser Zergs. But as we move on to game number 4, I feel like by the time we get to the end of these games as well, Pig, you see the eventual blink micro constant stalker control here from Classic, and then all of a sudden he knows he's got it and he does the blink forwards, and then Classic always GG's.
Yeah, he's got great decisiveness, and I think it comes from having such great range as a player. Classic has just got such a variety in his strategies to go from really defensive big macro plays to go for a Haas build, that Zealot Immortal attack, like without charge, it's such a crazy all-in that very few players do. Haas, the cheesiest man in the world, I believe invented that build. So, and then he goes back to like really just crisp, powerful, adept timings coming in, the Blink Stalker follow-ups, handling the Swarm hosts, and yeah, 3-1 victory, well earned for Classic.
That's right. If you're hoping for some diversity in our race distribution, it's a good day to have Classic going through here as he makes it through 2 Gamers 8, the first Protoss out of the previous 8 players that had already qualified. He is now our 9th player, and he makes it through for the Protoss pieces. Ben, it's a good time. It's happy to see. RagnaroK still has another chance, though, down in the lower bracket. He's going to be fighting off for another shot. I believe he's going up against Creator in that one, so close one potentially.
And definitely doable for him. Like, I mean, Creator, he played very good in his series today. He was really clean, actually, against Dom Ragu. But RagnaroK, yeah, he shouldn't be looking at anybody like they're undoable. I mean, if a Cure or Hero drops down, depending on how the bracket looks, then that's probably a bit of a roughy match for him. But even on his good days, I think those aren't totally undoable. I mean, he was making Hero kind of work for it. But yeah, today was all about Classic, man. Like, he absolutely breezed through it, felt like. I like the series against Gumiho, he was just taking fights that he knew were kind of bad for him, but it's like, yeah, I'm gonna win anyway. Like, and he just was, it was just good overall play. Like, he was smart about the way he played the series and smart how he played the games. It wasn't fluky wins whatsoever. It was well thought out, well executed, and it was just a super pleasure to watch him.
Yeah, it does feel like he's worked hard since coming back from the army to kind of reattain the level that he was trying to push before actually leaving on. So, well, any final thoughts, Pigs, before we wrap things up?
I mean, you don't win that many Star Leagues, GSLs, and Super Tournaments over a 6-year span like he did before going to the military without having this class. We're seeing him return to it. So I knew it was only a matter of time. I think this is going to be a great tournament for Classic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, guys. And it's a big win, as I say, for Protoss. One of them has finally made it to Gamers 8 here at Gamers Without Borders. We're going to go to a break, and when we're back, will a second one make it to Gamers 8? For some, it might be the main event of the day. It's going to be Cure going up against Hero in a best of 5 here at Gamers Without Borders.